I'm glad you're here. Tonight, I want to tell you about a man whose first home was not a palace, but the endless grasslands near the Onon River in what is now northeastern Mongolia. A child named Temujin was born around the year 1162. Nobody celebrated with fireworks. Nobody believed the baby would change the world. Yet this poor boy would grow into the man we know as Genghis Khan. His armies would create the largest connected land empire in history. They would stretch from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe. Millions of people would live under his rule. Trade would grow across Asia. Entire kingdoms would disappear. His name became so powerful that even today, more than 800 years later, people still speak it with wonder, and sometimes with fear. But here's something interesting. Nobody knows exactly how he died in 1227. Some say he fell from a horse. Others believe he became sick during a military campaign. Some legends tell stranger stories. The truth vanished with the people who buried him. Even today, his tomb has never been found. Think about that for a moment. A man who conquered half the known world, whose grave remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Most stories begin with his victories. Tonight, we won't. Instead, I want you to imagine that you're standing on the Mongolian steppe hundreds of years ago. Not as a king, not as a soldier, not even as Temujin. You are the wind. Yes, the wind. You never stop moving. You have no country. You belong to every hill, every horse, every family living in a felt tent beneath the giant blue sky. You watched a small boy chase sheep across the grass. You watched him laugh. You also watched everything fall apart. His father, Yasuge, was poisoned by enemies when Temujin was still a child. The family's supporters disappeared almost overnight. Friends became strangers. The tribe abandoned the widow and her children. Yesterday they had protection. Today they had almost nothing. The wind remembers hungry winters. The family dug roots from frozen ground. They caught tiny fish by hand. Sometimes there wasn't enough food for everyone. History often asks how a poor boy became the greatest conqueror. But maybe the better question is this: what happens to a child who learns that nobody is coming to save him? Every lesson around him was hard. Trust carefully. Stay ready. Weakness invites danger. One day, another family captured Temujin. They locked a heavy wooden collar around his neck. Imagine trying to eat, sleep, or run with a large piece of wood tied to your shoulders. Many people would have accepted defeat. Temujin didn't. One night he escaped. A stranger chose to hide him instead of turning him in. The wind remembers that moment, because every empire begins with someone making a choice. Years passed. Temujin grew stronger. He married a young woman named Borta. For a brief moment, life looked peaceful. Then raiders kidnapped her. Most stories tell you about the rescue. The wind notices something else. Temujin could not rescue her alone. He needed allies. He needed people who believed in him. That changed everything. Instead of asking, "Who has the richest father?" he asked, "Who is loyal?" That sounds simple today. Back then, it was revolutionary. Many tribes chose leaders because of family blood. Temujin rewarded ability. A shepherd could rise. A blacksmith could become important. A brave soldier could earn respect no matter where he was born. The wind watched men leave powerful chiefs and follow the poor boy instead. Not because he promised comfort, because he promised fairness, at least within his growing army. Slowly, the tribes united. Not peacefully. There were battles. There were betrayals. There was terrible violence. History should never hide that. Cities were destroyed. Many innocent people died. Fear became one of his strongest weapons. Sometimes entire towns surrendered simply because they had heard stories about his army. Words traveled faster than horses. Fear opened gates before soldiers even arrived. Then, in 1206, something extraordinary happened. The tribes gathered. They gave Temujin a new name, Genghis Khan, the ruler of a united Mongol nation. The wind remembers the silence before the cheering began. A hungry child had become the leader of people who once abandoned him. But his greatest weapon was not only the bow, not only the horse. It was information. Messengers rode incredible distances. Spies gathered knowledge. Generals adapted quickly. Discipline mattered more than pride. His soldiers could travel farther and faster than many enemies believed possible. While one king waited behind castle walls, the Mongols were already somewhere unexpected. The wind smiled, because it also loves surprise. You never know where it will arrive next. Across deserts, across mountains, across rivers, the empire kept growing. China, Central Asia, Persia, toward Europe. Some people only remember destruction. Others point out that trade routes became safer across much of the empire. Merchants carried silk, spices, ideas, inventions, religions, and stories over enormous distances. The world became more connected than before. History, like the wind, rarely blows in only one direction. Then came the final campaign. Genghis Khan was older now, still riding, still leading, still chasing one more victory. And then, he was gone. No grand farewell speech survives, no confirmed last words. Only silence. His followers carried his body away. The location disappeared into legend. The wind knows, but the wind has never told anyone. After his death, his children and grandchildren expanded the empire even farther. For a time, it became the largest connected empire the world had ever seen. But every empire carries a tiny crack inside it. Distance, power, different ambitions, different rulers. Eventually, the empire divided into separate khanates. Over generations, those powerful branches weakened. New kingdoms rose. Old borders returned. The empire faded. The grass remained. Today, if you stand on the Mongolian steppe, the wind still crosses the same hills where a hungry boy once searched for food. It does not care about crowns. It does not remember who called themselves king. It remembers choices. A frightened child choosing not to surrender. A prisoner choosing to escape. A leader choosing loyalty over family names. A conqueror choosing expansion again and again, until his name reached nearly every corner of the known world. Maybe that is why Genghis Khan still fascinates us. Not because he was perfect. He wasn't. Not because he was kind. History tells us he often wasn't. But because one human life, beginning with almost nothing, reshaped the map of continents. And somewhere, beneath an open sky, in a place no one can point to with certainty, the greatest conqueror of the steppe still sleeps, while the wind keeps telling his story to anyone patient enough to listen.